talk to me about the role that secretaries of state can play and how they are working together to protect reproductive rights, given what we are seeing come out of state legislatures.
Well, thank you for having me on. The conversation about abortion and the extremism coming from the top of the ticket of potential Republican presidential contenders is frankly frightening. We have DeSantis leading extreme abortion bans, forcing Floridians to carry pregnancies, oftentimes before they would even know they're pregnant. We have Trump, on the other hand, parroting around or failing to say he would not sign into law a national abortion ban. And at the end of the day, these extremists are trying to force women to give birth, to carry pregnancies, even if the women would die in the United States of America. Secretaries of State and Democratic secretaries of state, our job is to protect democracy. Our job is to protect our fundamental freedoms. And these extremist politicians can only pass the laws that they do, which the American people largely do not support, if democracy is not functioning, if we don't have a representative government. So first and foremost, we're focusing on protecting the right to vote and making sure Americans can have their voices heard and elect the people they actually want in office.
Secretary Griswold, you heard my lead up into you, which is that you have Ron DeSantis, who is widely seen as one of the prime contenders for the GOP nomination, not only going after reproductive rights, also under scrutiny for his voter suppression tactics. You have polls, you've seen all the same polls I have, showing Trump remains the front runner if the GOP primary were to be held today. He continues to double down on election lies. I think a lot of voters, they hear all of the rhetoric that is coming from the right. They know what they are trying to do. And then the question becomes, what can people like you, other secretaries of state, do with the hard power that you have?
Well, when it comes to protecting access to abortion care, I was happy to join the governor of Colorado in saying the state of Colorado will not extradite any person for the criminalization of care happening in Colorado. We're seeing states trying to criminalize action in other states, and that's, for example, one of the things that I was proud to take action on. But when it comes down to it, you're 100% right. DeSantis, he just announced his presidential bid while the U.S. House is calling to investigate his election police for voter suppression and disproportionately targeting people of color. Donald Trump, we know the story. He continues to refuse to say he will accept the outcome of a free and fair election. The attack on democracy is not over. It's not. Hundreds of bills have been introduced just this year to strip Americans of the freedom to vote. So secretaries of state, the Democratic secretaries of state, we are there to push back on the voter suppression and open up access to make sure Americans can have their voices heard. Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliated voters are the ones who should be deciding American elections, not extremist politicians who are trying to tilt the game by suppressing the vote or trying to take power even if they lose.